All right, let's talk a little bit about. I want to talk about the portal real quick, but we don't have to spend too much time on this. But I'm curious because I think I might have a hot take on this, but I'm going to ask you guys first. To, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that the portal exists the way that it does in college basketball? Because I've seen guys, Tom Izzo's complained about it recently, and has criticized it. There's been other coaches that have come out and said it's not necessarily a good thing for the game. Coach K, Roy Williams, both kind of intimated that that some of the changes have been part of the reason that they are no longer
Right.
in the coaching ranks. So do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it is what it is. It's hard for me to really have an opinion, but what I do like about it, guys, is the fact that now coaches have to be nicer to their players because you have to be able to keep them. And that's difficult. And the thing is, uh, it makes it hard for a lot of guys that are really like they drive the message home sometimes, not by force but by like repercussion or being demeaning. You can't do that anymore. You got to treat your guys right. Now, that being said, with the portal, it's just part of what's going on. And whenever I had a discussion yesterday, I did a hit with Sirius XM, and it was like, is it in a good place or a bad place? I think college basketball, from a visionary standpoint, as far as like what I'm watching on the floor, I think it's in a great place because of this extra year. And I think there's going to be a market correction. I think people are going to start to be able to kind of get back to normal with the reduction in scholarships. Guys are starting to leave. There's a big portion of guys that enter the portal that just don't play anymore. And so I think, for what it's worth, like, if I'm a student athlete going in, I better have something in line right away. If I'm not somebody like a Brandon Huntley Hatfield from Tennessee, if I'm not somebody like what's the kid's name, Kedrick Davis from SMU, who knows he's going to have a spot. Like, if I don't know what I'm getting into as soon as I hit the portal, like, you're taking a huge risk. And I think now players are starting to realize that a little bit more. And I also think it's good for coaches. Like, hey, you can't just blindly go in and make promises, because if you don't keep them, a guy can just leave. And I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think overall, I do think it's going to end up being a good thing for the sport as a whole. It's a little bit difficult because it eliminates some of the notoriety of players. I think one of the biggest issues that college basketball faces is that in November and December, the general public doesn't know who the best players actually are. And I don't think that's necessarily a great thing.
That's our job.
Yeah, that's our job, is to educate people. And when you don't have a situation where like Bryce Young and all of these great freshman quarterbacks are coming back, you kind of deal with that a little bit in college football as well. But I think that what it does is going to raise the level of the top teams in the sport. And what I mean by that is, normally, if you have a player leave school early, like let's say that you unexpectedly lose a point guard from your team, right? You're going to have to go out and find a freshman and try to fill that spot with whoever you can get. Now, instead of having to find a freshman, you can go out and you can get Kendrick Davis from SMU. You can go out and get one of these up transfers, a kid from East Carolina that's really good, and you can fill the role that way. If you're Kansas and you need a point guard in your spot, you don't have to worry about going out and trying to find some freshman to mold into that position and hope that he works out 2 or 3 years down the road. You go get Remy Martin, and Remy Martin won them the national title, right? So I do think that it allows these players to jump up a level, and it makes it so that these teams at the highest level are going to be better than they were. At the same time, those teams
bring
at the
the bottom
level
up too, though. It
Yeah,
can bring the bottom up too. Like, if you look at, for example, if you look at Clemson, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rob, but Clemson loses their 2 lead guards, the guys who started like, there's a very strong chance that they get an upgrade at those spots. And the fact that they already have certain pieces and they can get upgrades at certain spots, like, that's huge. It's huge. So it's like,
and it also allows, and it's not just that. It's like, so SMU loses Kendrick Davis, right? Well, they can go down and find one of these studs in the D2 ranks or in the lower Division I ranks and bring them up a level. So I think that it creates kind of an effect where if you go to college and you perform, there's going to be a better opportunity for you where you can move up a level. And if you perform there, then maybe you have a chance to get to the NBA. I think it hurts some high school kids in that you're not necessarily going to have the what
kills them.
Yeah, it's going to hurt a lot of high school kids. The fact that, one, all these kids are getting COVID years, and 2, all of these coaches are now like recruiting the portal. Like, you go and talk to coaches and they'll say, yeah, I'm trying to get 2 or 3 kids out of the portal. Maybe we'll bring in a freshman this year. right? So I think that it's going to force a lot of these like kind of Oshai Abadis and DeJuan Harris's and players of that ilk are going to end up at some of these mid-majors, which creates an opportunity for mid-major coaches to go out and say, we're the factory that is going to turn you into the next player at the high mid. If you're
creates a feeder system.
Yeah. Like if you're Joni Broom, right? If you're Steve Prohm at Murray State, go out and find all of these guys, these 3 stars, these borderline top 100 kids, bring them in, say, we're going to give you a ton of minutes. You're going to play your way up. Give me 2 years and I'm going to help you get to the high major level. Hell, I'll send you to LSU where my former assistant Mac McMahon is now the head coach, kind of a thing, right? So you create a pipeline, you come here, you perform, then we'll get you to the high major level. So I do think that it's going to help a lot of players find their level, and it's going to help a lot of the teams at the top level be able to stay at that level, if that makes sense. Am I talking? You look confused. Am I talking through my ass here, Fanta?
No, you're right. But the bottom gets better by this. The middle gets better. Programs that you wouldn't have seen as Elite 8 or Sweet 16 caliber teams heading into a season can be that. There's more parity in college basketball because of the transfer portal. Now, at the end of the day, the Final Four was the teams that maybe you would have guessed, that collection of 4 teams at the start of the season. There's a chance you might have. That being said, Miami doesn't make the Elite 8 without the transfer portal. Providence made their first Sweet 16 in 25 years. Yep. They're not doing that by out-recruiting Villanova and Connecticut. They're not. You have to bring in the right collection of kids. And it does hurt high schoolers. Why? 100%. Because you're getting a 5th or a 6th year player, sometimes a 7th year player. I haven't seen any 8th or 9th, but it wouldn't be shocking to me.
Yeah, the last time we had a 9-year college player was when Robbie Hummel was at Purdue.
Yeah, that's right. And Aaron Kraft went 8 years, right? Or John Diebler. John Diebler was I thought he played at Ohio State for a decade. Okay. So for me, I think that the portal allows you to accelerate what you do. And if you're building things up, you can, or if you were fading, if you had a bad year last year, no longer are you going to say it's going to take us another year to figure things out. And first off, ADs aren't going to listen to that anymore.
Right.
The job changes. And some people are saying it's our business. Our business sucks. Our business is brutal. LaVall Jordan at Butler shouldn't have lost his job. And LaVal's a good man. And the way that he lost it, I wouldn't say that that's appropriate. That being said, that's a reflection of the pressures that are on you to win. You're getting paid a lot of money. And if you're getting paid that kind of money, you are expected to bring in wins when other programs are making it a reality, some of which don't have the resources that you possess. So for me, I think what it does is 2 things. Number one, it means that the bottom or the middle can actually be closer to the top. It means that other programs that were once perceived as top 25 or top 35 programs can be top 5 programs or top 10 programs in a following year if they get the right collection of kids. And what else does it mean? It means that the coaching carousel has never been running faster. Schools want immediate gratification, especially off of a pandemic where money is necessary. You've got to win games. You've got to get units for your league. There's going to be more pressure on programs to win now because that's the reality of the situation. And the line between being a mid-major coach who puts together 3 or 4 magical days at a conference tournament and makes the NCAA tournament and gets that job, that big job. The line has never been thinner between that person and the person at a power conference school who makes the tournament and loses in bad fashion in the first round or misses the tournament in a one-off year. Because if your buyout makes enough sense, they will move on. They will move on. And that's why coaches are complaining, because in one way it could end like that. But in another, that's the reality of college basketball now. The portal is the portal. It's not changing. But to say that the bottom gets killed by it is wrong. There were a lot of bottom schools. There were a lot of low and mid-major coaches who were saying, we get killed by this. Sometimes you're able to get a talent that you would never get at your school as a result of the transfer portal. Facts are facts.
The only people that have gotten killed are high school kids, like high school seniors. Those guys are getting killed with this extra year because, especially now that you're going back to the original number of scholarships.
Oh yeah.
I mean this high school senior class is just like, oh buddy, like there's going to be, I think the next 3 or 4 years, those high school kids are like, if you get an offer from somewhere, you better take it, because there is a finite amount and there's a lot more players, and it's just that's just the way it's gonna be at this point.
And what's going to end up happening is we're going to see this for probably another 2 to 3 years, where there's this glut of COVID years that are still there with the 13 scholarships, and you're going to have more players, more Division I caliber players than there are scholarships available. So the portal is going to be nuts, because you're going to have all these kids that are at too low of a level that perform really well, that then these high majors end up going to try to scoop up, and it's going to be this constant thing. But I think in 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years, once you kind of get rid of this like mass of players that are the too many players, we're going to find a new normal. And I think that eventually, once everything kind of like finds its level, then the portal is going to end up being a thing where it kind of balances out. We got to get to the new normal. Right now, we're still in these weird times with COVID years and everything. We got to get to a new normal.